The galaxy was burning. Warships clashed in the darkness of space, their energy beams cutting through shields and hulls. The screams of dying crews filled the comm channels, and the mighty empire of the Thalren, one of the oldest alien civilizations, was facing defeat. At the heart of the chaos was Queen Serenia of the Thalren. She sat in the command chamber of her royal flagship, a shining vessel shaped like a silver spear. Around her, her generals shouted, issuing orders, but the enemy swarm was endless. The Kryvax horde, brutal insect-like invaders, had surrounded the fleet. Explosions rocked the flagship. "Shields failing," shouted one of the Queen's guards. "Enemy boarding craft approaching," another cried. The Queen's eyes, silver and sharp, did not waver. She had sworn never to show fear before her people. But deep inside, she knew this was the end. Then the alarm screamed. The enemy boarding pods pierced the hull. Dozens of Kryvax warriors poured inside, their claws tearing through steel, their shrieks echoing down the corridors. The Queen's guards fought bravely, but the insect warriors overwhelmed them. "Protect the Queen," the captain of the guard shouted, swinging his energy blade. But one by one they fell. The Queen stood with her ceremonial spear, prepared to make her last stand. If she was to die, she would die fighting. But fate had other plans. Through the smoke and fire, a figure appeared. Not Thalren, not Kryvax. A man, tall, armored in battered human combat gear, his face hidden behind a cracked helmet. He moved like a storm, a plasma rifle in one hand, a blade in the other. "Get down," he shouted, his voice raw, harsh, and undeniably human. The Queen froze in shock. A human? Here? Before she could think, he opened fire. His shots were precise, brutal. Each Kryvax fell with holes burned through their chitin. He fought like no soldier she had ever seen. He didn't retreat, didn't hesitate. He charged. The Kryvax tried to swarm him, but he moved with reckless speed, using walls, doors, even bodies as cover. He grabbed one insect warrior, pulled the pin from its grenade, and kicked it into its own squad. The explosion lit up the hall. When the smoke cleared, only silence remained. The Queen lowered her weapon slowly, staring at the stranger. The human removed his cracked helmet. He was young, with sharp eyes and a scar running down his cheek. His hair was dark, sweat dripping down his forehead. "You're alive?" he asked, breathing heavily. The Queen blinked, her royal voice still calm. "Yes, who are you, human?" He gave a small, crooked smile. "Just a soldier named Daniel." Before she could reply, more alarms rang. The flagship was breaking apart. "Your ship won't last long," Daniel said, scanning the damage. "We need to move." The Queen hesitated. Thalren royalty did not take orders from strangers, but at that moment survival mattered more than pride. She nodded. Together they ran through the collapsing corridors, dodging fires and debris. Daniel led her to an escape pod, but when he tried to activate it, the console sparked. It was destroyed. "No way off this ship," Daniel muttered. Then he looked at her. "We'll have to take a different path." The Queen raised an eyebrow. "And where would that be?" Daniel pointed to the viewport. A broken Kryvax shuttle was lodged against the hull. "You're insane," she whispered. He grinned. "Yeah, works most of the time." They fought their way to the shuttle, boarded it, and Daniel somehow managed to bring it online. The small craft burst away just as the Queen's flagship exploded in a ball of fire. They survived. But now they were stranded. Hours later, the shuttle crash-landed on a hostile, uncharted moon. The night sky burned with lightning storms, and the air was heavy with toxic mist. The Queen sat near the wreckage, her silver robes torn, her crown lost somewhere in the chaos. She looked at Daniel, who was busy building a fire from scraps. "You risked everything," she said softly. "Why?" Daniel shrugged, not looking at her. "I don't like watching good people die." "You don't even know me," she pressed. He glanced at her then, his eyes serious. "I don't need to. You're someone worth saving." The Queen felt her chest tighten. No alien in her court had ever spoken to her like that, not as a queen but as a person. The storm raged outside. With no beacon, no comms, and no allies nearby, they knew they had to survive the night together. They sat close by the fire, the strange light flickering on their faces. Daniel shared his rations with her, though it left him hungry. He told her stories of Earth, about blue skies, oceans, and forests that stretched forever. She listened, fascinated. "You humans, you come from a death world," she whispered. "Every species in the galaxy fears you." Daniel chuckled. "Yeah, Earth's tough, but it makes us tougher." Silence settled for a while. The Queen stared at him, the man who had saved her life. His armor was broken, his body scarred, yet he was still standing. Strong, alive. "You are unlike any warrior I've known," she admitted. Daniel poked at the fire. "And you're not what I expected from a queen." Her silver eyes narrowed. "And what did you expect?" He smirked faintly. "Someone cold, distant, untouchable. Not someone who'd fight with a spear against monsters." For the first time in years, Queen Serenia laughed, a soft, genuine sound that surprised even herself. The storm outside grew worse, lightning cracking across the sky. They had no choice but to huddle closer for warmth. The toxic air forced them to keep the fire burning, and the Queen found herself leaning against Daniel's shoulder. For that one night she was not a queen, and he was not just a soldier. They were simply two souls clinging to life together. Something passed between them, unspoken, fragile, yet undeniable. But when dawn came, Daniel was gone. The Queen awoke to find herself alone, the fire dead, the humans' tracks leading into the mist. He had vanished without a word. She touched the ground where he had slept beside her. Her chest ached, though she did not understand why. All she knew was that a human soldier had saved her, shared a night she would never forget, and disappeared into the galaxy. 5 years had passed since the night Queen Serenia spent with the human soldier. 5 long years since Daniel vanished into the mist without a single word. The galaxy moved on, but Serenia could not. Her empire, the Thalren Dominion, had survived. The war against the Kryvax horde, though only barely. Entire fleets were gone, colonies burned, and millions of her people lay in graves. But she had rebuilt. Piece by piece, battle by battle, she restored her people's pride. Now her throne stood strong once again, and her name was spoken with respect and fear across the stars. Yet when she sat alone in her chamber, she thought not of empires or victories. She thought of him, the human, Daniel. The memory of his scarred face, his sharp eyes, and his reckless courage haunted her. She had seen many warriors die for her, but he had not died. He had disappeared, no message, no explanation. Just gone. Her advisors never knew the truth of that night. They thought she had escaped the battle through her own cunning. They believed her silence was wisdom. But only she knew the truth, that her life had been saved by a single human soldier, a man the galaxy would have dismissed as nothing, and she could not forget him. In the 5th year of peace, new dangers began to rise. The Dominion's borders were restless. Pirates attacked supply lines, old enemies plotted revenge, and whispers of a greater threat spread through the trade routes. One evening, as Serenia sat in council with her ministers, a new report came. "Queen," said Lord Velis, her most loyal general, "there are rumors, stories spreading from the outer colonies. A human mercenary, a ghost. They say he has been seen in 3 sectors. They say he fights like no one else." Serenia's silver eyes narrowed. "A human mercenary? There are thousands of them scattered across the stars." Velis shook his head. "Not like this one. They say he fought off a Kryvax nest alone, that he led colonists through a desert world with no water, that he carries the scars of war, but never speaks his true name." Serenia's heart pounded in her chest. She hid it well, but deep inside she knew. Daniel. She dismissed her counsel early. That night she stood by the great window of her palace, staring at the stars. Where are you? She whispered. For the next year, Serenia began a secret search. She used spies, agents, even smugglers, though none knew her true intent. To her court, it looked like she was gathering intelligence on mercenaries and pirates. But in truth, she was chasing shadows, hoping to find the man who had once saved her. Her nights were restless. She dreamed of that fire, of the storm outside, of his voice telling her she was worth saving. Sometimes she woke in anger, furious that he had left her. Other times she woke in sorrow, longing for the presence she had lost. But always, she searched. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, stories of Daniel spread quietly. In the frozen wastes of Delvorn 9, miners told tales of a lone human who fought off raiders with nothing but a knife and courage. In the jungles of Karvak, colonists spoke of a scarred soldier who carried children through poison storms. On the space stations of the Rim, mercenaries whispered of a man who fought like a demon, yet asked for no reward. No one knew his true name. Some called him the Ghost of Earth, others called him the Wanderer, but every story was the same. He fought with madness, survived the impossible, and disappeared before anyone could thank him. Serenia listened to every rumor. With each one, her heart tightened. Was it truly him? Or was she chasing a dream? But, while she searched, her empire's enemies grew bolder. The Dominion scouts reported sightings of a new fleet moving in the dark. A force unlike any they had seen before. Ships built for slaughter, not conquest. Colonies were vanishing overnight, entire worlds stripped bare. The council grew fearful. "This is no pirate fleet," Lord Velis warned. "This is something far worse. A storm is coming." Serenia stood tall before them. "Then we will face it as we have always faced our enemies." Yet deep inside, she felt doubt. Her armies were strong, her fleets mighty. But this new enemy was different. Ruthless, silent, unstoppable. And in her heart, she felt a truth she did not want to admit. If anyone could help her fight this darkness, it was the human who had once saved her life. One night, as she sat in her private chamber, her closest handmaiden approached. "My queen, forgive me, but I have seen the way you look at the stars. You search for someone, do you not?" Serenia's eyes softened. She should have been angry, but instead she whispered, "Yes." "Who is he?" the handmaiden asked. The queen closed her eyes. "A man. A human soldier. He saved me when no one else could. We shared one night long ago, and then he vanished." The handmaiden bowed her head. "Perhaps the stars will bring him back." Serenia said nothing, but her heart whispered the same hope. Months later, her spies brought her a report. "My queen," Velis said carefully, "our agents tracked a mercenary on the Rim, a human, scarred, restless. They say he turned the tide of a battle on the desert world of Karthus, and they say his name is Daniel." Serenia froze. For a moment, she could not breathe. "Daniel," she whispered, the name she had kept locked in her heart for 5 long years. Velis frowned. "You know this man?" She straightened, her royal mask slipping back into place. "Perhaps." But inside she knew. It is him. That night, Serenia stood once more at the great window of her palace, staring at the endless stars. For 5 years, she had ruled with strength and silence. For 5 years, she had carried the memory of a single human soldier who had saved her life and touched her soul. For 5 years, she had wondered why he left. Now at last she had a name, a direction, a chance. And as her empire trembled before a new enemy, she made a silent vow. She would find him. Not as a queen searching for a soldier, but as a woman, searching for the one man she could not forget. The stars stretched wide before her. Somewhere out there, Daniel walked among them. The desert world of Karthus was a wasteland. Its skies burned red, and its sandstorms howled across empty plains. Only the desperate and the forgotten lived here. Smugglers, mercenaries, and those who wanted to disappear. It was here that Queen Serenia's search finally ended. Her ship, a sleek black cruiser that carried no royal banners, landed under the cover of night. She wore no crown, no royal robes, only a hooded cloak. None of her advisors knew she had come. Only her most loyal guard, Lord Valus, accompanied her. "You risk much, my queen," Valus warned as they stepped onto the barren ground. "If this mercenary truly is the man you seek, why vanish without a word for 5 years? Why not return to you?" Serenya's silver eyes glimmered in the dim light. "That is what I intend to find out." The settlement on Karthus was nothing more than broken shacks and neon lights glowing weakly through the sand. Drunken mercenaries stumbled through the alleys, traders shouted over prices, and shadows lingered in every corner. Serenya walked among them, hidden beneath her cloak. She was a queen here, yet no one knew. To them, she was just another traveler. At a dusty bar, Velas spoke quietly with the bartender. The alien, with long antennae and a cracked carapace, leaned forward. "The one you seek? A human? Scarred face, dark eyes, carries himself like death itself?" Serenya's heart skipped a beat. "Yes," Velas said firmly. The bartender nodded slowly. "He comes here sometimes, doesn't drink much, doesn't talk. But when trouble comes, he fights like a demon. Last I saw, he was staying in the old ruins outside town." Serenya thanked him with a nod, but her hand trembled beneath her cloak. For 5 years she had dreamed of this moment, and now at last, it was within reach. The ruins lay silent under the twin moons. Crumbled stone walls, broken towers, and long-forgotten temples dotted the sand. Among them, a small fire burned, and beside that fire sat Daniel. Serenya stopped, in her tracks. Her breath caught in her throat. He was older now. His hair was longer, streaked with gray. His armor was battered, his rifle close at hand. The scar on his cheek seemed deeper, his eyes darker. He looked tired, worn, like a man who had carried too much pain for too long. But it was him, the man who had saved her life, the man who had vanished. Daniel looked up, his eyes locked on hers beneath her hood. For a moment he froze. Then he reached for his weapon, but stopped when he saw her face. "Serenya?" he whispered, disbelief in his voice. She lowered her hood. Her silver eyes shone in the firelight. "It has been a long time, Daniel." For a long moment neither moved. The fire cracked softly between them, the desert wind carrying silence. Finally, Daniel stood. "Why are you here?" His voice was rough, guarded. Serenya stepped closer. "I have searched for you. For 5 years I have searched." He turned away, staring into the darkness. "You shouldn't have." Her chest ached at his words. "Why did you leave me?" she asked softly. "That night you saved me. You stayed with me. And then you were gone." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Because you're a queen, and I'm just a broken soldier. Our worlds don't belong together." Serenya reached out, her voice firm. "You don't get to decide that for me." For the first time, Daniel looked at her fully. There was pain in his eyes, but also something else, something he had buried for years. Before either could speak more, the night exploded with gunfire. Mercenaries, dozens of them, stormed the ruins. Their leader, a hulking alien with metal-plated skin, shouted, "The Queen of the Thalaran, hiding in the desert, she's worth more than a fortune." Valus drew his blade, moving to protect his queen. Daniel cursed, snatching up his rifle. "No time for words," he growled. "We fight." And once again, just as 5 years ago, they stood side by side. The mercenaries charged. Plasma bolts lit up the ruins. Daniel's shots rang true, each one dropping an enemy. He moved with deadly skill, covering Serenya as if no time had passed. Serenya herself fought with her spear, its blade humming with energy. She struck down her attackers with grace and fury, her cloak falling back to reveal the warrior queen beneath. "Your left," Daniel shouted, firing past her to kill an enemy she hadn't seen. "Behind you," she called, driving her spear through one who tried to flank him. The ruins became a battlefield, the two of them moving as one. Old instincts, old trust. It all came rushing back. Velas fought fiercely, but even he could not deny what he saw. The queen and the human soldier moved together as if bound by fate. At last, the mercenary leader charged, swinging a massive hammer. Daniel barely dodged the strike, the ground shattering where it hit. Daniel grit his teeth. Big one's mine. Serenia stepped beside him, raising her spear. No. Ours. Together, they fought. Daniel drew the leader's attention with rapid fire, while Serenia struck with precision, each blow weakening the brute. At last, Daniel leaped forward, plunging his blade deep into the alien's chest. Serenia followed with a final strike of her spear, ending it. The leader fell. The rest fled into the desert. Silence returned. Breathing heavily, Daniel lowered his weapon. Serenia stood beside him, her chest rising and falling with exhaustion. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. "You haven't changed," she said softly. He gave a bitter smile. "I've changed plenty, just not in the ways that matter." She stepped closer. "Then tell me, Daniel, why do you fight alone? Why do you wander like a ghost?" His eyes darkened. "Because I don't belong anywhere. Not with soldiers, not with mercenaries, and certainly not with a queen." Her hand touched his arm. "You belong where you choose. And 5 years ago, you chose to save me." Daniel stared at her hand, then at her eyes. For a moment, the walls around him cracked, but before he could answer, Velas approached, his face tense. "My queen, this world is no longer safe. More will come. We must leave at once." Serenia nodded, but her gaze never left Daniel. "Come with me," she whispered. Daniel froze. His instinct was to refuse, to walk away again. But deep inside, something in him stirred, something he had buried since that night long ago. "At last," he whispered back, "if I go with you, everything changes." Serenia's voice was steady, certain. "It already has." And so, as dawn rose over the desert world of Karthus, Daniel stood once more at the queen's side. For 5 years they had been apart, but fate had brought them together again, bound not by duty, but by the unspoken bond they could no longer deny. The galaxy was darkening with new threats. Enemies gathered in the shadows. War was coming once, again. But this time they would not face it apart. This time they would face it together. The galaxy was restless. News of a new enemy fleet, larger and more ruthless than anything the Thalren had ever faced, reached the Queen's ears. Entire colonies had vanished overnight. Communications from distant worlds reported nothing but silence. Queen Serenia stood on the bridge of her flagship, her silver eyes scanning the holographic map of the conflict zones. Ships blinked red and yellow, representing strikes, losses, and enemy movements. The enemy was smart, fast, and brutal, stronger than anything she had faced before. And yet, she had hope. Because Daniel was with her. After 5 years of searching, she had found him. Now, the same human who had saved her life once before would lead her forces in this new war. She watched him as he studied the map, his posture calm but tense, every movement precise. "You really think this will work?" she asked, her voice steady but tinged with worry. Daniel glanced up at her, his dark eyes sharp. "It's risky, but everything we do against them is going to be risky. If we don't act, they will destroy everything." Serenia's jaw tightened. "And you think your human methods will work?" He smirked faintly. "They always do, or they fail spectacularly. Either way, we try." The first battle came swiftly. The enemy fleet descended on the colony world of Arconis 7. Its skies were filled with warships bristling with energy cannons. The Thalren fleet, though strong, was outnumbered nearly 2 to 1. Panic spread among the commanders. "Form the defensive grid," one shouted. "Protect the civilian zones." Daniel shook his head. "No, that's exactly what they want. Defensive formations are predictable. I need a gamble." "Your gamble?" one admiral asked, incredulous. Daniel pointed to a narrow asteroid belt near the planet. "We hide there, use the asteroids to break their sensors. Then we hit their command ships directly. Surprise is our weapon." The Queen watched him with a mix of awe and fear. She had fought many wars, but she had never seen someone so confident in impossible odds. The Thalran fleet followed Daniel's instructions reluctantly. The ships plunged into the asteroid belt, weaving through the massive rocks. The enemy fleet scanned and fired, but the dense asteroids blocked most attacks. Daniel's gamble was working. Then, as predicted, the enemy command ship moved forward, trying to outflank them. "Now," Daniel whispered. The Thalran ships fired in perfect coordination. Explosions erupted across the enemy hulls. One command ship after another fell, destroyed by precise strikes. The enemy commander roared in anger. "Impossible! How do they know our every move?" Daniel leaned against the control panel, watching. "Humans see patterns others miss. We improvise when rules fail." By nightfall, the Arconi 7 invasion was repelled. The planet was safe, its colonies intact. The Queen's heart swelled with admiration. "You risked everything." He gave a faint shrug. "Risk is the only thing we have when the odds are impossible." In the days that followed, Daniel's tactics changed the tide of war again and again. On the ice world of Krythos, the enemy tried to ambush a Thalran supply convoy. Daniel sent a small strike team of human and Thalran soldiers across frozen tunnels. They detonated ice mines under the enemy ships, sending them crashing into the surface. The survivors fled in terror. On the jungle planet of Virelia, Daniel led an infiltration into enemy supply lines. Using camouflage and stealth, they sabotaged weapons depots, leaving the enemy unarmed when the main fleet arrived. Each victory was daring, dangerous, and against all conventional military wisdom. The Thalran generals whispered among themselves. Humans were reckless but brilliant. Meanwhile, the Queen and Daniel spent hours together between battles, planning strategies but also talking about the nights long ago. "You're still too reckless," she scolded one evening as they reviewed star charts. "I'm not reckless," Daniel replied with a grin. "I'm human. And humans survive by taking risks others won't." She shook her head. "I don't know how you do it. I've fought wars my whole life, but you inspire soldiers to follow you into almost certain death." Daniel's eyes softened. "I don't do it alone. I have people I care about, and I know you're one of them, even if you're the Queen." Serenia felt her chest tighten. She had always known humans were different, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. Courage, loyalty, creativity, even empathy. It all shone through him. And despite herself, she found herself trusting him. Not just as a soldier, but as a man she could rely on with her life. The enemy, realizing they were being outsmarted, escalated their attacks. They targeted the Thalran capital, hoping to break the Queen's spirit. But Daniel had anticipated this. He divided the Thalran fleet into smaller units, each taking different routes to the capital. The enemy expected a single defensive line, but instead they found themselves chasing shadows. When the enemy finally reached the capital, Daniel's trap was ready. Mines, ambush points, and surprise reinforcements tore through the invaders. Ships exploded in brilliant fireballs against the black void. The Queen watched, amazed. "You've turned the impossible into victory." Daniel glanced at her, his dark eyes tired but focused. "Sometimes the impossible is all we have. And humans, we thrive there." The Queen nodded slowly. "Then the galaxy should fear your kind." He laughed softly. "Or respect us. That's better." Amid victories and battles, their bond grew stronger. They laughed in private moments, shared stories of childhoods worlds apart, and sometimes, when the night was quiet, simply watched the stars together. One evening, on the flagship's observation deck, Serenia spoke softly. "You've changed the course of this war, Daniel, but why stay with me? You could disappear again like before." Daniel leaned against the railing, looking at the glowing stars. I could, but I don't want to. I fought all my life to survive. I spent 5 years alone and it was empty. You make me want to fight for more than survival. Serena felt her heart beat faster. And if I asked you to stay, not as a soldier, but as someone I care for? He met her gaze, a small smile breaking through his stoic exterior. Then I would stay. No gamble, no risk. I'd stay. The Queen smiled softly, feeling warmth she hadn't known in years. As the war reached its climax, Daniel proposed a daring attack on the enemy's flagship, the heart of their command fleet. It was a suicide mission in the eyes of many Thalren generals. You want to lead a single strike against their main fleet? One asked incredulously. Daniel's eyes were calm. It's not just a strike, it's a lesson. The enemy believes in their numbers. We will show them intelligence, strategy, and courage. One human squadron can change the outcome of a war. The Queen placed her hand on his shoulder. And I will be there. With you. He nodded. Then it's settled. Let's win this war. The plan unfolded like a storm. Daniel led a small fleet through hidden routes, evading enemy scanners. They struck with precision and speed, disabling the flagship and scattering the enemy fleet. The Thalren forces surged forward, following his lead, and the battle was won. By the end of the campaign, the enemy was retreating, their fleets shattered, their morale broken. The galaxy had seen humanity in action, reckless, unpredictable, and brilliant. Daniel had not only saved the Thalren Empire, he had reminded every race why humans were feared, respected, and admired. The Queen watched him one last time on the battlefield. He was tired, battered, yet still standing. Her chest swelled with pride and something more. You did it, she said softly. Daniel's smile was faint but genuine. We did it. Together. She took his hand, holding it firmly. And now no one can ever tell me humans are weak, he chuckled. Nope, not a chance. The galaxy trembled under the shadow of the enemy fleet. Their last stronghold, a massive fortress world called Verendor, loomed in the distance. Its orbit was surrounded by hundreds of warships, each bristling with weapons capable of destroying entire cities. Queen Serena's fleet hovered just beyond the planet's defenses. Her ships were battered from previous battles, but morale remained high. For the first time in years, hope shone brighter than fear. Daniel stood on the bridge of the flagship, his dark eyes scanning the starfield. The scars on his face, the fatigue in his posture, told of years of survival and battle. Yet there was no hesitation in his gaze. Only determination. We attack tonight, he said simply. We have one chance to end this war. Velas, her loyal general, frowned. This is suicide. Their numbers are overwhelming. Daniel shook his head. Numbers don't win wars. Strategy, courage, and humans do. We can win if we take the right risk. Serena stepped forward, her silver eyes meeting his. I trust you, but promise me you'll survive. Daniel gave her a faint smile, his usual bravado softened by the weight of truth. I'll survive if you're with me. Her hand brushed his. A silent promise passed between them, stronger than any words. The attack began at dusk. Daniel's fleet slipped past the outer defenses using hidden asteroid belts and decoys. Thalren warships followed, moving like shadows, through the enemy's detection grids. Daniel's plan was bold, almost reckless, but it was the only chance. As they approached the fortress world, the enemy opened fire. Energy beams cut through space, tearing through ships and debris. The battle raged like a storm, metal and fire, colliding in silent space. Daniel led the strike personally, piloting his fighter with deadly precision. He guided squads through corridors of fire, dodging explosions and striking at enemy command centers. The Queen watched from the flagship, her heart racing. Every move Daniel made was a gamble, yet he executed it flawlessly. Every human tactic, improvised, risky, and brilliant, kept them alive. Then came the turning point. The enemy commander, a monstrous being of metal and chitin, activated a planet-wide weapon. The energy pulse could destroy the Thalren fleet. In a single blast, Daniel saw it coming. "Velas, I need the fleet to split. Only the decoy ships can draw the blast. The rest must strike the command hub." The maneuver was dangerous. Entire squads risked annihilation. Yet Daniel's plan relied on one human trait: reckless courage. Ships split in perfect formation. Daniel guided the decoy squad into the path of the weapon. The energy pulse struck them directly and the fleet shook violently. Explosions lit the void. Daniel's heart pounded. The decoy ships were gone, but the rest of the fleet moved through, unharmed. Risk paid off, he whispered, though pain tore at his chest. Inside the enemy fortress, Daniel led a strike team of humans and Thalren warriors. The halls were dark, filled with traps and hidden guards. Every step could be their last. The enemy commander awaited them in the throne room, towering and lethal. Its claws tore at the walls and its eyes burned with hatred. "You dare enter my world, human?" it growled. Daniel didn't hesitate. "I don't just dare. I will stop you." The battle was brutal. Daniel's team fought with precision, dodging attacks, striking where the enemy was weakest. Daniel himself took blows that would have killed any ordinary soldier, yet he pressed forward, driven by instinct, loyalty, and something more, his bond with the Queen. At the crucial moment, Daniel leapt toward the enemy commander, throwing himself onto its chest, piercing its armor with his blade. Sparks and energy flared. The enemy roared, swinging wildly, trying to crush him. But Daniel held on, forcing the creature back toward the weapon's core. "Now!" he shouted to the Thalren soldiers. They struck together, detonating charges around the weapon's core. The fortress shook violently. Energy exploded outward, tearing through the enemy ranks. Daniel held on, battered, bleeding, but alive. When the dust settled, the enemy was defeated. Their fleet scattered, their command destroyed. Victory belonged to the Thalren, and to Daniel. Serenia watched from above, her chest tight with relief and fear. When Daniel finally returned to the flagship, battered and scorched, she ran to him. "Daniel," she cried, wrapping her arms around him. He looked down at her, exhausted, bleeding, but smiling faintly. "I told you, I'd survive if you were with me." Tears filled her eyes. "You risked everything. For me. For my people. For this empire." He touched her face gently. "Because it mattered. And it's not just the empire. You matter." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. The war was over. The galaxy was free of the enemy's shadow. And here in the quiet after battle, the truth could finally be spoken. "Daniel," she whispered, "I don't care about traditions or ranks or anything else. You are the one I choose. Not as a soldier, not as a hero, but as the man I care for." Daniel's eyes widened slightly and then a slow smile formed. "Serenia, you mean it?" She nodded, her silver eyes shining. "I have waited 5 years to tell you. Stay with me, as yourself, as my partner, as the one I trust more than anyone." Daniel felt a warmth he had not known in years. He had wandered, fought, and survived alone for so long. Yet here, in the arms of the Queen he had once saved and who had once haunted his dreams, he finally found belonging. I will stay," he whispered. "No more running. No more disappearing. I am yours." The galaxy took notice. The alliance of races who had once underestimated humanity now watched in awe. A human soldier had not only led victories against impossible odds but had earned the respect of a queen, changing the perception of his kind forever. Humans were no longer just warriors. They were leaders, tacticians, and symbols of courage. They were the kind of beings who could inspire loyalty, devotion, and hope across star systems. And Daniel, once a lone wanderer, stood at the heart of it all, not just a soldier, but a man capable of love, strategy, and sacrifice. In the days that followed, the Thalren Empire rebuilt again, stronger than ever. Cities flourished, fleets were restored, and peace returned to the galaxy. But for Serenia and Daniel, victory had a more personal meaning. They stood together on the palace balcony, watching the twin suns set over the capital. "You changed the galaxy," Serenia said softly. "But you changed me too." Daniel smiled, slipping his hand into hers. "And you changed me. You made me see what I fight for. Not just survival, but connection, hope, and something worth staying for." They stood side by side, the galaxy stretching endlessly before them. The stars glittered like promises, and the wars of the past seemed distant. Serenia turned to him, her voice steady. "No one can ever tell me humans are weak again." Daniel chuckled softly. "Not a chance, and they won't. But it doesn't matter what they think. We know the truth. We survived. Together." As the twin suns sank below the horizon, casting gold and crimson across the sky, the queen and the human soldier, Daniel, stood together, ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store. Not as warrior and queen, not as soldier and ruler, but as equals, partners, and perhaps finally, as home for one another. The galaxy had seen humanity's strength, courage, and heart. But in the quiet of that balcony, Serenia and Daniel knew that their greatest victory was the bond they shared. Oh, bond unbroken by distance, war, or time.